love that they use it. It's 7 o'clock. We'll call the Finance Committee meeting to order. A regular council meeting will follow this session. Roll call. I see everybody is present. Confirmation of the agenda. Someone would like to move? Member DeRose, Member Oslach, that the agenda be accepted. All those in favor? The motion is carried. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? Seeing none. The minutes of the previous minutes.
That the committee adopts the minutes, noting no errors or omissions.
A mover and a seconder. Member Chapman, Member Rahi. Discussion? All in favor? The motion is carried. Thank you. I don't believe there is any additional correspondence or updates. Staff reports, 6.2.1. Community grants. Andy, are you presenting?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So the first report is intended to just establish in principle how much council will allot to community grants in 2025. Council undertook a reduction in the area of around $8,000 last year, and we're suggesting that you might want to target another $10,000 reduction in 2025. This was just based on the analysis that was done in 2023 that indicated that Elmer was spending more than twice as much as some other comparable municipalities in this area. Staff's suggestion is not to undermine the value or services provided by any organizations. It's just simply trying to rein in a cost area. The proposed amount of $45,000 would just be in principle, so there would be nothing to prevent council to change or amend that when the applications come forward. We know community organizations are working on their grants right now. They're due before the end of the month, so we just kind of thought that it would be a good idea to say that it will be a challenging year for funding, and that certainly because you received it in previous years doesn't mean that you'll get it this year. We want to see really good applications with kind of concrete deliverables for the community from everybody. So hopefully they sharpen their pencils and bring the best foot forward for this. With that, I'll try to answer any questions council might have.
Thanks, Andy. Do members of the committee have any questions at this time? Okay, seeing none, I'll accept a mover and a seconder to receive the report. And then we'll vote on it after that. Member Chapman, Member Rahi, further discussion? All those in favor? And the motion is carried. 622, and we'll also have the motion for that after the presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the committee has before you the 2025 budget survey results. The budget survey, this was an initiative that I had started back in 2021 when I started with Elmer. At that time, we reviewed a lot of other municipal surveys, and we found that a lot of them had kind of leading questions or assumptions built into them. So kind of a guiding vision of this process has been to try to seek honest feedback, both positive and negative, from the community in a way that really isn't directed towards any potential work plan or vision that staff or council might have. The last 2 years, Owen and his team have handled the survey and worked on refining it and really addressing the communication strategy around the survey. Certainly, it's highly successful in our response rates. We got 388 responses, which is the highest to date. We're routinely outpacing the county in their budget survey responses, so this is a really good feedback from us. And certainly, I know one of the things that was stated a lot the last term of council was a desire to address some concerns in the community. At that time, we were coming out of COVID, and there was kind of a lot of level of mistrust of any institutions, and our community was being kind of communicated as being divided. But that's not what we're seeing here. We're seeing a lot of building of social capital and hopefully building trust with the community. That trust is really based on us trying to follow through on what we see from these surveys. I take a lot from this, and I think council does as well. When we see that there's, the high priorities for recreation, it kind of shows us that we're continuing to go in the direction that we've heard from previous years. There's obviously a lot of work to be done, but I certainly think that we know what the community wants and are trying our best to adapt to their needs and desires. I do want to express my appreciation to everyone that filled out the survey and look forward to future surveys as well. And I'll probably rely on Owen and his team to answer any questions specific to it.
Thanks, Andy. Members of the committee, do you have any questions? Member Oslash.
Concerning a dog park, there's a number of questions, answers, and questions on the survey of a dog park. So I've been working for the past 10 years on a dog park, and I have brought it to council over the years with no avail. I would like to make a motion these prepared by Owen. The staff is be directive to prepare a report on the inclusion of a dog park for the in the current or future budget. Yeah.
Is there a seconder for, you're presenting this as a motion?
Yes.
Is that correct? A seconder for the motion? Member Drose? And the members of the committee, how do you feel? All those in favor? Okay. The motion is carried. Member Chapman, you reserved your vote.
Yes.
Did you want to make a comment?
I just have concerns about a dog park. Dog parks are enjoyed by many, but they also can be not attended to properly, and people don't take care of their picking up the feces, and dogs can get diseases from being in the dog park. So I have dogs, but a dog park is just something that I avoid. So that's why.
Perhaps the staff report will address some of those concerns. Member
And
Druce?
the maintenance of it.
We're a little out of kilter here, but I'm open for the discussion. Member Drose?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I share some of the concerns that Member Chapman may have, but I do think it's advantageous of this council and of the committee to at least look at the options available or potentially not available to make a better educated decision. So I think it's good to have that information provided to council, and what decision we make after that is reflective of what's included within the report. So I think it's a good idea.
Fair enough. So we have a motion that's been moved and seconded and carried with some comments from the members of council. Moving along, are there any other questions regarding the budget survey per se? Member DeRossi?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a question if there's any plans to bring any recommendations forward based off the results that we've received within the survey. Is that the intent of staff to bring several reports forward outlining various topics that were discussed throughout the budget survey, or how does staff plan to utilize this information to move forward with decisions, I guess?
Andy, would you like to answer that?
Through you, Mr. Chair. So, yeah, certainly some of the concerns, some of the issues raised here are not by any means new to this survey. We've seen them in previous years. So we do look at specific items. We look at all the comments, and we consider how to address them. But some of the items, like I'm seeing number 2 there, recreation facilities and services, that certainly is something we're working on, and we'll have numerous reports on. Some of the overarching issues, such as affordable housing, are really important for us to continue to put our pedal to the metal and make sure we increase the housing stock here, and also hopefully within the next year or two, hopefully before the end of this term, there will be some considerable affordable housing options before council for consideration. They do have our CIP program. All of Elmer is designated as an affordable housing area, so I know that's something that is not necessarily within our purview for service delivery, but it is something that we're very cognizant of and have heard in numerous surveys. So I think we'll make an effort to refer to tie specific initiatives back to this survey as well in our reports.
Thanks, Andy. Are there any other questions? Member Cookett?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple of comments, one being one that Andy just kind of mentioned, dealing with homelessness and affordable housing. As he mentioned, this is really in our purview. It's really within the county to help us in that issue. But I have been working with the county to have more say in the social services in St. Thomas, which handles the grant structure for affordable housing. So it's a long road to hoe, but we're making some progress in having the county and especially the city of St. Thomas, which handles the social services, to take a closer look at Elmer. Second point, I was very pleased to see a number of mentions for the indoor pool. Glad to see that I didn't see anything there that was negative in terms of the indoor pool or that it costs too much or that kind of thing, because that's kind of down the road. But it was heartening to see that. I would ask, at this point, I would ask council to think about, when we deal with the budget, the operational and capital budget actually at the next finance meeting, that we take a serious look at having technical specs or architectural plans or whatever you want to call the $150,000 that is slated in the capital budget for 2026. I think it would be great if we looked at that for 2025, so that if there are grants out there, and there are some right now, that we are ready for them, just as a comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wanted to? Member Chapman?
I just want to agree with Mayor Cookett that I would like to see the pool, what did you call it? The
tech specs or the
Yeah, be moved up to 2025.
Thank you.
For exactly the same reason. There's grants available, and if we want to utilize some of them, if it's already in motion.
Thank you. Yes.
Through you, Mr. Chair. I think it's a great idea and great to see comments about the pool, but I just question trying to move the $150,000. It'd be great if we can do it sooner, but we were talking, I believe, our last finance committee meeting, that there's some tight budgets for 2025 and things are being pushed off. Are we gonna, is it feasible to fit $150,000 into the budget for 2025? I know that might be a conversation for later, but that's a concern I would have. If we're pushing things off and then putting the fee for a pool, or to see if we can do a pool into 2025.
A reasonable question for a forthcoming meeting. Okay. Personally, I felt that the survey highlighted a lot of the incentives that council has begun to address. The Parks and Recreation Plan items that were in there. The Finance Committee previous surveys identified several different topics that the people of Elmer would like to see progressed, and we're making those steps on a lot of those projects. If anyone is inquiring as to the status of a sidewalk or a road in their area that they need the answers on, there is a long-range plan for every street within Elmer and every sidewalk. Where does it fit within the hierarchy? All you have to do is ask, and member council or member staff can provide that information for you. The Finance Committee and Council have the difficult challenge of balancing the needs and the wants. Money will fix everything, but we have to be very cautious of what we do and how we get there. And with the other demands on budgeting, whether it be municipal or whether it be at our homes, we all have to be cognizant of the fact that every buck counts. And I'm sure the committee and council will do that. Are there any other comments that anyone would like to make? Member Oslach?
Yes, Mr. Chair. There was more comments on the library than the budget survey I had last year. Just a comment.
Observation? Okay, thank you. Yes.
I have a comment, I guess, through you, Mr. Chair. It's good to see how many people are actually filling it out. Still seems like a low number to me for the amount of people that live in our town. But I guess it's good because it's going up. And there's a pile of information in here, and I hope it doesn't get wasted. I hope that we can actually accomplish some of the stuff that's on here, but like you just said, there has to be enough money to go around, and there's a large list of stuff in here, so that is all. Thank you.
Thank you for your thoughts. Okay, if there are no other questions, we'll have a motion.
That report clerk 2624 respecting the 2025 budget survey be received as information.
A mover and a seconder, please. Member Van Raes and Member Rahi. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? And the motion is carried. Thank you. New business and inquiries by members? Seeing none, a resolution for adjournment?
That the committee now adjourn at 7:16 p.m.
A mover and a seconder. Member Oslach, Member Drose, all in favor? And the motion is carried. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the regular council meeting of Wednesday, September the 4th. Roll call, seeing all the present. Confirmation of the agenda resolution.
That council adopts the agenda for the meeting of September 4th, 2024.
Mover and seconder, Councillor Van Raes and Councillor Rahi. Discussion. All those in favor? Is carried. Thank you. Moment of reflection and respect. Thank you. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? Seeing none. No delegations or public meetings. Consent agenda. I have a resolution.
That the September 4th consent agenda be received for information, and that the included recommendations within the staff reports be adopted, and that council approves the minutes of the regular meeting of council held on August 14th, 2024.
Mover and seconder, Deputy Mayor Barbara, and Councillor Van Raes. Council? Any que- Councillor Chapman.
I just have a comment on number 6.1.3. I'm happy to see that you're putting this proposal out to the grade 9 and 10 students for the redesign of the flag. And I've already spoken to a young gentleman who was quite excited about it. So I hope that we have many more students that are as excited as he was.
Thank you. I too think it's a great idea. I was impressed with the materials that were provided to the class, the art class. Knowing something about lesson plans, I certainly would give the person who put this together, Michelle, a great thank you. Very well done. Councillor Desrosiers.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm very supportive of anything youth engagement-wise. I think it's a good thing, and I appreciate the effort that was put forth in developing this. I would like to understand the rationale behind the program, the current scope of it, specifically providing some insight as to why it's limited to just grade 9s and grade 10s opposed to 9s to 12. Is it staff able to provide that?
Sure. So we looked at alignment with the current curriculum. Michelle looked at that. And specifically, it aligned best with the grade 9 and 10 art classes. And we were looking at it on a trial basis and just to bring some ideas back to council. And following that, if council, we are planning a staff report on the actual flag. And if council's interested at that time on opening it up to more grades and more members of the public, we'll move ahead at that point.
Anyone else? Seeing nothing, all those in favor of the motion? It's carried. Thank you. 6.2, minutes to approve.
7.1.
We did all those. Right. Thank you. 7.1, Director of Emergency Services and Fire Chief, a report on the resolution.
That report Fire 07-24 entitled Use of EpiPens on Emergency Calls be received for information, and that council authorizes the Elmer Fire Department to utilize this life-saving device in an emergency anaphylactic reaction as an enhanced service.
Moving seconder, Councillor Desrosiers, Councillor Chapman. Chief.
Thank you, Your Worship. Good evening, members of council. At this time, I'm very pleased to introduce Charity Fisher, who will be who's heading this program and will explain the benefits to council.
Thank you, Chief McCone, for that introduction, and thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of council, for taking the time to listen to this presentation. Just to give a little background about myself, I've been on the volunteer fire department for almost 3 years. And I've recently taken the position of fire and training coordinator. Through that, I've looked over our medical program that we have, which includes delivering first aid and CPR to all of the firefighters. And I've taken all the training to do that in-house. I do have a background before this as a paramedic, so medical stuff is pretty close to my heart for all that. So I'd just like to, we'll pull up the presentation I have to show you about the EpiPens, so you guys can gain a better understanding of why this is important for our town. So, just what to go forward with this presentation. So what we want to talk about here is EpiPens to treat anaphylaxis. And should I put it in the PowerPoint? That's good. Yeah, that's good. Okay. So I would I want to present EpiPens to treat anaphylaxis for the Elmer Fire Department and why that's important for us. here.
Can you click it?
If any of you if any of you guys have ever seen anaphylaxis or know anyone who has anaphylaxis, I'm going to just talk a little bit more about what it is and why it's important. We'll pull that up here. We're having some technical difficulties. So just to speak of our fire department and our community, so over the past year, the Aylmer Fire Department responded to 120 calls. Of those calls, 35 were medical calls. So the fire department gets called if EMS is more than 10 minutes away, or if they're requested by EMS for any reason. Of those calls, 3 calls were confirmed allergic reactions. So symptoms from allergic reactions that we personally saw last year from members of our community include swelling of the tongue, throat closing up, shortness of breath. And as you can imagine, your throat starts closing up. That's a very serious medical condition that can lead up to death if it's not treated very quickly. And also something that's pretty big within our fire department. I have here on the PowerPoint 3 Aylmer firefighters, and I found out actually there's a 4th Aylmer firefighter. So 4 firefighters on our department carry EpiPens to treat anaphylaxis. So that's kind of just to show how common it is, even within our own fire department, within our community. And I know we have like several children at the schools in town who also have EpiPens for anaphylaxis. So just to give you a little idea, if no one's heard of what this is, anaphylaxis is an allergic reaction that escalates to the point of an emergency that up to including death. Just some things that can happen. The biggest thing is that like constriction of the airways. So when your throat closes up due to the allergic reaction, it can also be you can have weak rapid pulse, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, dizziness, fainting. But the big thing of the big emergency is that throat closing up that we want to fix as quickly as possible. So, and here's just some common triggers. So nuts, milk, shellfish, eggs, that kind of thing. The insect stings, the bee stings is a big one. And so this it's becoming more and more prevalent in our communities. So for example, like the schools, if you've all heard, like you can't bring peanut butter into the schools anymore because there's so many cases of children having reactions to peanut butter that it's not allowed in schools because it's become such a big issue. And bee stings is another really big one. 3 of our firefighters have allergies to bee stings, so that's important to note. So the treatment for anaphylaxis is epinephrine. So if you've seen those EpiPens, anyone who's done first aid, CPR, they show you how to help someone else provide their own EpiPen. Elgin EMS, so the ambulance service, carries their own Epi. We're not trying to change anything that they do. They have a good system. They do well. Aylmer firefighters right now are trained to assist someone else in administering their own EpiPen. So that works very well. If someone knows they have an allergic reaction, they've been diagnosed, they have their EpiPen ready and just can't administer it themselves. So this is the same as any other member of the public who would go take a first aid CPR course. You're trained to administer an EpiPen if someone already has one. So the problem with that is what happens if they don't have their own EpiPen. So if this is the first time they've ever had an allergic reaction, they haven't been given one like by a doctor, they haven't been set up with that, or if they just simply don't have it on their person at all times when something happens. As firefighters, if we respond to that call and the ambulance hasn't arrived yet and their throat's closing up, they're having an emergency, we can give them oxygen, but currently we don't have any EpiPens on our truck to give them. So we give them oxygen and wait for EMS and hope something worse doesn't happen while we're waiting. So what we're asking for is adding EpiPens to our Elmer Fire medical bag. To do that, we would need to have 2 adult and 2 child EpiPens in our bag to follow the medical directive that's already set up by a doctor. They've already set everything out. And we need to train the Elmer firefighters in the EpiPen medical directive. So just to look at the costs of how much this would actually cost the fire department, the town, you do need to be recertified every year. So because the fire department is considered completing like a delegated medical act in this case, then they're held to a higher standard of care than the regular public would be for first aid CPR. So every year they need a recertification in this and we've priced this out through Life Support Services, so it'd be $30 a year per firefighter to get that training. And then we would have to buy the adult and child EpiPens each year because they do expire. So that would be about $1,500 a year to get that certification and buy the EpiPens. So one thing we've already kind of set up is it would be a 4-hour course delivery, and once we give that initial training, that can then be incorporated into the first aid and CPR that we do every year anyway with our firefighters. And since I do have that background as a paramedic and I've gone to the course to be able to train this, then we can train in-house. We don't need to bring anybody in to do it. We can do it on our already scheduled training nights and our already scheduled first aid and CPR days. So it's not adding anything extra to the training for that. So just to kind of circle back of how this supports our community, if we add the EpiPens to our firefighter medical bags, if we do respond to that call where someone is undergoing anaphylaxis, they don't have their EpiPen on them, we can deliver that life-saving medication without having to wait for the ambulance to get there. And we could also protect our own firefighters who have their own EpiPens in the event of a bee sting while they're responding to an emergency call. And it does happen. It's happened even this summer. We've had a call that we went to where there was a wasp nest. We went to go pull off some siding, and there was a few firefighters that said, I need to step away. I didn't bring my EpiPen right now, and I need to not be involved in this right now so I can not have a medical emergency while I'm responding to this fire call. So I think it's quite important for our community here. Any further questions?
Thank you, Charity. Council, questions? Councillor Rahi.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A question, I guess, and a comment. My comment would be, I'm actually surprised that you guys don't already. And is it common for fire departments to do it or not to do it? Like, is it just common practice now? But I totally support it, so. But.
Yes, thank you, Councillor, for that question. It's kind of a mixed bag of some fire departments have it, some don't. Malahide Fire Department that is surrounding Elmer does already have it on their trucks, already has it set up. The program is set up to deliver it. It's just getting it on board to do so.
Have a follow-up?
Just a follow-up comment to you doing the training. I love and I did just do my CPR and AED first aid, and to my knowledge, you can't hurt anybody by giving it to them, right? Like, for the most part, like.
It's not ideal to be giving people epi when they don't need it.
I'm trained.
But the benefits far outweigh any risks that would be if you accidentally gave it to someone that didn't need it. That's kind of the point of that we have that 4-hour training.
Yeah.
Is initially in first aid CPR, you're trained to give it to someone who already is diagnosed, who already has it. They know they have it. You know what's going on. Whereas that extra training that we're giving our firefighters is to get them to the level of recognizing maybe this hasn't happened before and understanding that this is when it's appropriate to give it and when it's not. So getting them that knowledge so that they do give it in the appropriate circumstances.
Councillor Chapman and then Councillor Rosie.
As a sufferer of anaphylaxis to an unknown source, I am very thankful that you've brought this forward. I do carry an EpiPen, however, my reaction is quite severe, and sometimes one pen's not enough. So I have had an incident where the ambulance arrived within 5 minutes, and if they hadn't, I wouldn't be here. So I am very thankful that you've brought this forward.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My comments are actually very similar to both Councillor Chapman and Councillor Rahi. So firstly, as a child, I had an EpiPen as well, so I understand the value of having that, especially in a situation involving children and adults that have it as well. The question I did have, but I feel like Charity did a really good way of answering it already, was my question I had was, and it might be more so the thought process behind some residents that they might have, is if you have an EpiPen, theory, you think that it's quite simple to administer. It's blue to the sky, orange to the thigh, and you put it in, right? So some questions that residents might have is why the $30 per member annual fee to train something as simple as that to administer? But from what Charity explained, it's not just about administering it, it's about recognizing the signs, it's about choosing when and where to administer it. So like I said, that was my initial question, but Charity did a great job of answering it, so thank you.
Deputy Mayor Barber?
Thank you. I'll ask in a couple of quick points. Does a simple resolution by council and the appropriate training satisfy all the logistics required to administer EpiPen?
Yes. Yeah.
Good question, Deputy Mayor. Through your worship, as everybody in the room, someone identified they're trained to CPR and first aid, we're held to a higher standard. We have to be oversaw, I guess is the word to use, by a land-based doctor. So for the fire department to perform first aid and CPR, we have to take extensive training on that to qualify and for our insurances and such. The EpiPen's administration of that fall under the same guidance of our land-based doctor. Good question, thank you.
Second part, with the reoccurring cost, are EpiPens, can they become stale or dated?
Yes, so that's part of the cost there is that we would require 2 adult and 2 child to be bought yearly because they do expire. That's part of
Can
the
an
cost.
EpiPen be administered to an unconscious person with your training?
It can, yes. So if we know that the reason they became unconscious was because of anaphylaxis, then yes, that would be the first thing to do.
Okay. Thank you.
Councillor Benarese?
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. But sounds like most of council or all of council is going to be supportive of this, but I just wanted to put my 2 cents in, if you don't mind. I'm one of those firefighters that has an EpiPen and a severe allergic reaction if I get stung. So I see the value of this, and I appreciate bringing this forward. I was also on that call recently where we had to pull some siding off, and there was an electrical panel. And just to give you a visual of kind of what the firefighters go through on a day-to-day basis, we're on a roof, pulling siding off to try to find the source of the smoke on the roof. There's an electrical box. We open that up to see if there's anything that was in there. Sure, there was a wasp nest, and I'm standing right beside it. So I had to move myself back before we could close that and make sure that they weren't coming out before I could continue work. So I see the value of this. I hope the council does too. It sounds like they do, but I think it's something that just makes sense. So thank you.
Councillor Roselatch?
Your worship, just one comment. My son was allergic to bee stings. We had a EpiPen in the house during his growing up. He to this day, he carries EpiPen. Just one comment.
Thank you. Comment from me, I'd like to underscore Councillor Rahi's comment is how come it took so long before this happened? Because, I know the Thames Valley School Board actually ordered EpiPens in high schools in 1997 and asked teachers to administer them, so that was a long time ago. So anyway, thank you for that information. It's very informative. Is there any other comments from, okay, seeing none, all those in favor of the resolution, and it's carried. Thank you. Item 7.2, Director of Emergency Services, the Fire Chief, the budget amendment. We have a resolution.
That report fire 08-24 respecting a budget amendment for 2024 be received as information, and that council approve the budget amendments outlined in report fire 08-24 to be funded out of the anticipated 2024 fire surplus.
Mover and seconder, Deputy Mayor Rahi, Councilor Desrosiers. Chief McComb.
Thank you, Your Worship. The expected surplus is largely due to not filling the coordinator role for the first 5 months of this year and just mindful spending by the fire department. We ask council to consider the use of this surplus to allow for the 25 budget expenses to concentrate in the required training that needs to be completed by 26. Additionally, the early procurement of the expired equipment that was listed provides additional savings for this year as prices are expected to sharply increase like most everything else. Also, we're grabbing a promotion on the airbag lifting device for a trade-in allowance and additional rebates. For example, our 4,500 air bottles that we bought May 30th of 24, we paid $1,050 per bottle. That price as of August 27th is now $1,983. So as you can see, there's great savings of buying now as opposed to waiting for the 24 or 25 budget and using that money now. So any questions, Your Worship, I'd be happy to answer.
Council. Councilor Desrosiers.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a comment that I support this recommendation, and I'm happy to see that the surplus funds are being used responsibly and effectively. Thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing none, all those in favor of the resolution, and it's carried. Thank you. 7.3, Director of Operations, contract award for SCADA, resolution.
That report operations 19-24 entitled Contract Award SCADA and PLC upgrades be received for information, and that council accept the proposal from McRae Integration Limited for provision of SCADA and PLC upgrades and maintenance services, and that the mayor and the clerk be authorized to execute the agreement with McRae Integrations Limited following the terms and conditions in the RFP documents and McRae Integrations proposal submission.
Mover and seconder, Councilor Chapman, Councilor Desrosiers. Okay, so some people say tomato and some say tomato, some people say SCADA and some people say SCADA. Anyway, Rob, it's yours.
Thank you, Your Worship. As the council is aware, the town has been working to upgrade our SCADA system for some time, and that's to support the water and wastewater utilities. This is a multi-year project, and this represents phase one of that project. We issued an RFP to secure services for the design build of that first phase, and after an evaluation following the tender procedure, or the tender process, McRae Integration was selected as the preferred vendor. So the staff are recommending that council accept the bid from McRae and proceed with SCADA installation. And the first phase, the cost is $608,279. And I'd be happy to answer any questions council had.
Council. Deputy Mayor Barber.
Thank you, Your Worship. To Rob, how does the amount dovetail with the budgeted figure?
It comes within staff's expectations. The total cost of the SCADA is about $1.8 million in total. The first phase will be a little bit expensive. That's all the controls and the servers and the historians that'll be required to support later phases, and also is all the SCADA conventions. So this first phase is a little heavy on that 1.8 million, but it did come in very favorably priced.
So you're within your projections for the balance
Sorry, yes, that's correct.
at this time? Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Councillor Oslach.
Your worship, the ROB, they come out of water and sewage funding?
Through your worship, yes, the SCADA supports primarily the wastewater infrastructure, but also supports the water infrastructure as well, if that answers the councillor's question.
Anyone else? Seeing none, all those in favor of the resolution is carried. Thank you. 7.4, Director of Operations, the MECP Annual Water Report Resolution.
That report operations 20-24 entitled MECP Annual Water System Inspection Report be received for information.
Mover and seconder, Councillor Van Raes, Councillor Chapman. Rob.
Thank you, Worship. On behalf of Mr. Bailey and all the operations staff, I'm very pleased to present the 2024 inspection report of our water system. As you can see, the town received an inspection rating of 100%. And as council is aware, it doesn't take much of an error sometimes that you can clearly demonstrate was maybe a minor error, but something really small can actually knock you down in points in multiple categories, and before you know it, one mistake can score you an 80% mark. So keeping this 100% is a real accomplishment for
Council. You aced it right there, right? It's an amazing report, and town should be proud of receiving the one. All the minutiae that have to be covered in that, it's incredible, and thank you. All those in favor of the resolution is carried. Thank you. 7.5, CAO Strategic Plan Update Resolution.
That report CAO 43-24 respecting 2024 to 2027 plan update be received as information.
Mover and seconder, Councillor Rahi, Councillor Chapman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is the first annual report on the execution of the strategic plan. As we're a smaller municipality, we've established a task-based or objective-based strategic planning process. Updates on the tasks are listed here, and if council desires any updates or has any this is council's list, so if there's any changes or reprioritization, we're also welcome to that discussion. Tracking and monitoring are essential components to effectively implementing a strategic plan. So staff believe it's really critical to have actionable deliverables to undertake and undertake this annual review. With that, we'll try to answer any questions of council.
Council. I do have one. If we look at first of all, the report on the strategic plan is incredible. It shows how we're moving along on which ones we've completed. If you look near the end, there's one that talks about it's a C item: review animal control policies for 2024, which we haven't done yet. I just wanted to make a comment because I remember that sometime last year, I think, or maybe earlier this year, we did have a letter from a person at a veterinary clinic in town talking about the issue with feral cats. And at that time, council, I see Councillor Oslach laughing at this because he brings it up every time usually, and this time it's me. But talking about feral cats and the possible issue that this might cause in the town. So I would hope that when we do look at this, that we include that particular item. That's just a comment on that.
Yes, certainly, Mr. Mayor. I know, too, when we did, Josh Brick was involved, too, in the previous review of some of the issues, and the main issue that he identified with it was related to service animals, some more provisions there. But so certainly we can consider feral cats and examine how that's done in the report.
Yeah, I think there's room there because there are communities that have a proper good plan to deal with ferals, and ferals are not becoming less in the town of Elmer. So it might be nice to include that. Thank you. Any other comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of the resolution? That's carried. Thank you. Any new business and matters of urgency? The reading of bylaws, resolutions?
That council gives 3 readings to and approves bylaw 61-24, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council at the regular council meeting held on August 14th, 2024.
Mover and seconder, Councilor Desrosiers, Deputy Mayor Barber. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. Are there any inquiries by members? Any statements and committee report? I moved quickly on inquiries. I wanted to make sure there weren't any inquiries. Okay. Okay, statements and committee reports. Deputy Mayor Barber.
Thank you, Worship. 2 quick comments. I'd like to thank and congratulate members of the Elmer Horseshoe Club for their recent provincial and federal wins. For any of the younger people that happen to be watching, or that parents would like to have their kids involved in a very worthwhile and lifelong sport, to consider next year to join the Elmer Horseshoe Club. Very dedicated coaches, volunteers, and most importantly, the participants. And to see how well they're doing in a much wider scale is certainly encouraging, and kudos to them. The Secondary Water Board, Elmer Secondary Water Board, had a meeting today. Of note, consumption is up 3.4%, which is a bit of an upkick. Consider the environmental issues and savings that people have been into, so it'll be interesting to see how that goes. I'm sure part of that is growth related, and that's a good thing. Thank you.
Councilor Chapman.
I'd just like to bring forward that we now have a Connection Club for adults 55 plus. It's free drop-in program, and it will be on starting the first one on Thursday, September 5th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. It'll be at the East Elgin Community Complex. There'll be activities like pickleball in the Imperial Hall, board games, card games, snacks, and coffee in the arena lobby, and no registration is required. So if you're over 55 and looking for some social outings, then this might be for you.
That includes you, Councilor Oslitz. Right. Councilor Van Raes.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. We've been able to order and receive the equipment for Project Lifesaver, and that is hopefully being delivered to Elmer Police tomorrow. And then hopefully shortly after that, we'll have an announcement as to when it's up and running. But fingers crossed it gets delivered tomorrow, and we'll have the equipment and hopefully get that going. So thank you again for your support.
Thank you for the update. Councilor Van Desrosiers.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. September is recognized as Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, a dedicated period each year to shed light on the significant impact cancer has on children and their families, both globally and right here within our community. This month provides a vital opportunity to increase awareness about the challenges faced by young patients and their loved ones. Cancer continues to be the leading cause of disease-related deaths amongst children and adolescents in Canada. At present, approximately 10,000 children are living with cancer in our country, and each year, 1,500 new cases are diagnosed. These numbers underscore the pressing need for ongoing support and advancement in the fight against this devastating disease. On March 14, 2014, the Jenkins family of Belmont experienced the profound loss of their daughter Maggie due to complications from an aggressive rogue cancer cell that had unfortunately gone undiagnosed. In memory of Maggie and to honor the thousands of children faced with cancer, the Jenkins family has generously provided ribbon-shaped pins to council members and staff. These pins serve as a symbol of solidarity and a reminder of the enduring battle faced by many families. As we observe Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, it is crucial to reflect on the importance of continued investment in cancer research and the advancements of medical knowledge. By supporting global initiatives and fostering progress in cancer prevention, detection, diagnosis, and treatment, we are working towards improving the health outcomes and quality of life for children affected by cancer. Our collective efforts aim not only to provide hope and support for those currently battling cancer, but also to drive significant strides in the quest for a cure. Together, through awareness, advocacy, and commitment to research, we can make meaningful progress in combating childhood cancer and offer a brighter future for the children affected by this challenging disease. And with that, I would also like to mention, perhaps Mayor Cookett could shed some more information on this, but I do believe there will be a flag raising at the Elgin County Building in recognition of this, I believe September 10th, but I would leave it to Mayor Cookett to provide more information on that.
Not sure what date it is. I think you're right, September the 10th, because that's our regular meeting next week sometime. Okay, any others? Councilor Oslech.
Yes, Your Worship. The flower beds at the Cenotaph are simply beautiful.
They are. Councilor Chapman.
Thank you, Your Mayor. I just want to let everyone know that the Terrace Lodge Comforts of Home campaign is nearing its end, and we're having our final fundraiser on September 21st. It will be at Size Bowling Lanes. You'll get to come and see your local municipal leaders bowl off against each other to hopefully raise our last $52,000. If you haven't already donated, we have some members of council who are on the bowling team, Mayor Cookett, Deputy Mayor Barber, Councillor Van Rays, and myself. So you can reach out to any of us if you'd like to give a final donation, or you can join us that evening. It's $20 per person if you just want to come and laugh at us bowl, and that includes a meal and music and a silent auction.
Does it include chicken wings?
Yes, it does, Arthur.
Thank you for that, Councilor Chapman. Anyone else? All right, report of the mayor, just I guess a comment on about, I'm not sure which it was, a few Saturdays ago, Elmer was the home base for something called the Three-Port Tour, which is a bicycle gathering, kind of, I don't know, riding a bicycle for 50 kilometers or 100 kilometers or 160 kilometers, just saying that makes me tired. But nevertheless, it's been done, sponsored by the Elmer Express for well over a decade. And certainly it helps put Elmer on the map, because many of the people that come here for the Three-Port Tour come from all over Ontario. And certainly they're very pleased with the reception they get in Elmer, and very pleased with this particular bicycle tour. And in fact, this year, the town of Elmer coined, I don't know what the right word, made a special pin with bicycles on it, which were handed out to the tour. And that pin was designed by our own Chelsea. So I want to thank Chelsea publicly for the pin. Just to let people know that this was a very successful event. Okay, next item, notice of motion. Did you have a question?
I have a notice of motion.
You have a notice? Oh, go ahead.
Whereas women make up 52% of the Canadian population, but just 18% of mayors and 25% of councillors. And whereas, similarly, according to our recent community census, women make up 52% of the town of Elmer population, yet currently represent 28% of elected officials. And whereas decisions made with women's participation are more likely to reflect the true community. And whereas our community needs the resources, knowledge, and skills that women have to offer. And whereas the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, FCM, has launched the Prodigy program, providing the tools necessary for municipalities to offer a mentorship program aimed at increasing the involvement of young women by matching them with counselors. Now therefore be it resolved that the town of Elmer endorse and offer the Prodigy program to engage young women interested in becoming municipal leaders. Thank you.
Thank you. When are you bringing this notice of motion forward?
We can do the next meeting if that works.
Sure. Okay. Thank you. Next item, is there any other notice of motion? Next item, meeting closed to the public. We have a resolution.
That council moves into a meeting closed to the public at 7:58 PM to discuss the following matters. Director of Legislative Services report, Clerk 29-24, Old Town Hall Advisory Committee appointments, and that consideration of this item is closed to the public pursuant to Section 239 2B of the Municipal Act as amended, as the subject matter pertains to personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees.
Thank you. Mover and seconder, Councilor Chapman. All those in favor is carried. Thank you. We'll Back, everybody. We have a resolution coming out of closed.
That council rise from a meeting closed to the public at 8:13 PM and reports the following: that council received for information, Director of Legislative Services Clerk report, and provided direction on the Old Town Hall Advisory Committee appointments, and that council directed staff to insert the names of Councillor Jamie Chapman, Councillor William Van Rays, Mike Serrata, Cynthia Grant, Colleen Sawyer, and Angela Fuhr into the bylaw respecting Old Town Hall Advisory Committee appointments.
All right, thank you. Mover and seconder, Councillor Desrosiers and Councillor Oslach. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Resolution to adjourn.
We just got to adopt the bylaw.
Oh, we got another one, yeah.
That council gives 3 readings to and approves bylaw 60-24, being a bylaw to amend bylaw 38-22, being a bylaw to make the necessary council and citizen appointments to committees and boards.
Mover and seconder, Councillor Van Rays, Deputy Mayor Barber. All those in favor? Carried. Then resolution to adjourn.
And that council do now adjourn at 8:14 PM.
Mover and seconder, Councillor Van Rays, Councillor Desrosiers. All those in favor? Carried.